Guys, welcome back to the Lifted podcast. I have Amanda here. Amanda is the ultimate social media hype queen. Um, we met on social media. We were talking for months before we actually met in person, and I can say, like, you're the nicest girl that I've ever talked. And like okay, I know I said this before. You look so young. You've got 4 kids. I'm amazed actually, but welcome to the Lifted podcast.
Thank you so much. That's so nice of you.
Aw.
You're so sweet. Yeah, I remember the first time I met you, we were like in person. We were coming, like we ran into each other in the bathroom. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do remember. Yeah.
And like the first thing I thought was, oh my gosh, like how is she even prettier in person? Like,
Oh,
what the heck?
stop. Oh, no, honestly, I thought the same of you. And I swear we were just talking about this. I don't watch people's stories fully. I watch yours fully till the end. Like I am so intrigued in just like everything. Like you're just such a like bubbly, nice, kind person and genuine, and you can see that online, and I'm literally like I feel like I'm drawn to like your content so much. It's so good.
Thank you.
Yeah, no.
That's so nice.
Okay, so we were talking about before how you kind of lost yourself becoming you're a mom of 4. So give us some context on just how that happened.
Okay. Yeah. So I feel like I have to go back a little bit to before I became a mom for the right amount of context. And so I feel like a big part of like any kid's life is how they're raised in the family that they're born into and their family beliefs and everything. And so I grew up in a very like high demand religion where there was a lot of rules and you just followed those rules. And it was a very family centered like there's a lot of emphasis on family and family roles. And so it was drilled into my head at a very young age that like the best thing that you can do in this life as a female is to be a mother. And it's like that's the goal. That's the most important thing. Like literally in Sunday school lessons as a 12-year-old, they're teaching you that. So it was like always, that path was always laid out for me. And it didn't really feel like there was
So
another one.
at 12, that's when they started being like that's you. Like as a female, you're a mom. Like
Yeah,
or that's what you're living up to kind of thing.
and honestly, it was probably even before that. But yeah, it's just the most important thing. And I didn't really, like, it sounds restricting, but I didn't really think anything of it. It was just the way that it was. And I didn't think that there was another option or another way. That's just like what you did. It's you grow up and you become a mom. But yeah. Anyway, so I that attitude of just kind of doing what you're supposed to do, I kind of carried that on into adulthood. When I like went to university, I majored in what my parents wanted me to major in. I was like, I don't know. So just kind of went along with whatever they wanted. And it wasn't until I was like in I think I turned 20 was when I went through this liberating phase of just actually like doing things for myself. I switched my major and I told my parents, like, I'm done with this. I'm auditioning for the music program. This is happening. So I started a whole new like thing that way. And that at the same time, that's when I met my now husband. And we fell in love really fast and I decided to get married at 21. And that was like, that big step made me feel a lot of freedom. And I started just like feeling more excited and liberated about life. And I remember when we were engaged, we weren't even married yet. I went to him and I was like, I'm done with school. I'm not doing this anymore. Music was like a huge part of my identity at that point. So I was writing lots of songs and I was performing, and I I wanted to take it more seriously and I wanted to actually do it. And so I said to him, I want to go and find a producer and make an album, and I don't want to go to school. And I got a lot of flack for that from lots of people, but not him. He was like, let's do this. Let's go. And so it was an exciting time. I was saving up money and meeting with producers and making music and like authentically just being myself and following this dream that I was realizing I wanted really badly. And then I got pregnant on my 22nd birthday. I found out I was pregnant. And that didn't really like deter me at first. I was like, I can do both. And I recorded my music through my pregnancy, had my baby, and he was amazing and kind of just my whole life at that point. Then I got pregnant again and I was still like releasing music. I remember I was literally 8 months pregnant at my album release party. I could barely walk and like breathe. And I was like, I thought it would be a good idea to get up on stage and sing in front of people in that state. It was really fun. It was great.
Why not?
Right?
Yeah.
But then I had my second baby. And suddenly I had 2 kids under 2. And the thought of performing and the thought of recording and that kind of just disappeared really fast. And with that, it wasn't just music, it was every aspect of my life. It just not slowly, very quickly started to just disappear. Like taking care of myself, exercise, and like free time. Like what's free time, right? And so I kind of just felt like, okay, I'm a mom now, and I had these examples of mothers in my life and like in church and in my family, and it was like all of these women, they're like selfless sacrificers. And so in my head, I'm like, to be a mom, you have to be selfless. That's like a good thing to be. You need to sacrifice everything for your family. And I started taking that very seriously, and it was like, okay, I guess like my time is over and now my time is theirs. And it just kind of spiraled that way, and I just kind of accepted it, but not really, because I kind of hated it, but I went along with it, and I became who I thought I had to be as a mom. And I don't really feel like I identify with like the true role, like the generalized roles of like a mom, I've never really been a kids person. I know that sounds funny as a mom of 4, but I just like I was never felt gravitating to like towards that role like some women did. And so because of that, I just felt guilty. And so that pushed me more into like trying to be more selfless and more giving of my time to them, if that makes any sense.
That makes so much sense. I honestly feel like more times than not, you see women being like, "Oh, well, I would do anything for my kids, and I would give up everything." And like, not to say that you wouldn't. Like, I think that like they're obviously, you care about them a lot and whatever, but I think, the more you focus on yourself, the more you can give to them also. So it's like, but that's kind of what people see is like moms just give and give and give all the time, especially when you're in a really, really religious place, or like, you're in the church or whatever. And it's like, that's what you see. And then, yeah,
that's what's
that makes
praised,
so much sense.
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You want to be seen as this like I don't, but at the time you want to be seen as this selfless sacrificing mother woman.
And that's what you were taught too. Like, I mean, starting from even earlier than 12. So you're seeing all these women become moms and like giving everything up and whatever. and you're like, that's what I have to be in order to be a good mom, is probably what you're thinking.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So was there a time when you like a particular moment when you were like, I lost myself, like you realized that you completely lost yourself, you know?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was one moment. There was two different points where I was kind of at my lowest of feeling like I was completely lost. And looking back at it now, both of those times were when I had two kids under two. And I remember the first time, like when I had my first two kids, um, I went to this event and I didn't know anybody there, and so everybody was introducing themselves. And when it was my turn, like before I could even finish saying my name, somebody like interrupted and said, "Oh, that's Amanda. She's just a mom," and like cut me off. Like I was done, moving on to the next person. And I remember just like feeling gutted in that moment. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is how the world sees me. Like I'm invisible. Like I felt so small in that moment. And just like stuff like that kept happening. Like people, they don't ask, how are you? They ask, how are your kids? What are they up to? Nobody's saying, how are you doing? Right? And you want to scream like, I'm not okay. Thanks for asking. But, and so I just like, there's a lot of like anger built up during that time because I felt invisible. And it was just,
Well, that's awful. I mean, I never even thought about that, but like even when people ask, like when I was growing up, I remember the first thing that people would ask my mom is like, "Oh, how's Elise and Jolene?" or like, "How's, your kids?" And I never even thought that like I guess you don't even your perception is so different when you haven't gone through that, you know? So like to have people only ask like, "How are your kids?" I would be like, "Are you kidding?"
like
Like
even family members, like anybody, it's just like they just want to hear about your kids. And you're
ah,
like, I'm here too.
you're like, "No shit, I feel lost.
I'm
Thanks,
cool too,
guys."
guys.
Great, thanks for asking.
But yeah, and so it was just like a lot of resentment building up. And that's kind of
Yeah.
like when I started exercising because I was like, I need to take this out in some way.
Hmm.
So I started going to the gym and
And that's kind of how you like dealt with it.
honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the second time I it kind of happened after we had the opportunity to move to Hawaii. And so it was for my husband's work. And he was doing sales out there. And so we moved our two kids out there. And I just came alive when we were out there. I felt like a completely, well, I felt like a completely different person, but at the same time, it it felt like this person was kind of there the whole time, kind of just like knocking at the door, trying to be heard, and I was just too preoccupied or I didn't want to hear her. And so just the circumstance of being on this island where like nobody knew who I was. I I had nothing, everything was different. Um nobody that I knew was there. And nobody had any preconceived notions of like who I was supposed to be. And so I took that opportunity and I ran with it and I became exactly who I wanted to be. And it was just, it felt so good being authentic and just being that person. I felt so like I just woke up. But then that opportunity was taken away really fast. And we found ourselves back in Calgary. And I was really sad. Like I felt like my life was like totally stripped away from me. And so I became pretty depressed in that instance. Like I never dealt with depression before, like not diagnosable until this time in my life. And so because of that, I kind of reverted backwards into the old version where I was feeling invisible and lost. And it was just like a really hard time where I didn't feel like I could handle very much. And there's lots of nights where I was just like, I don't think I can wake up and do this mom thing another day. And I just kind of crumbled a little bit. I didn't
Yeah.
deal with it very well.
I mean, I feel like that would be a hard thing to deal with because you just went to a place that, like, environment changes can kind of change your life. So you just went to a place that you actually felt like yourself and probably felt like just an individual fucking person
Mm-hmm.
again. And then you come back here and you're like, how am I supposed to now deal with me going back to basically not being or not feeling like you're a person, not that you're not a person, but having society have that perception of moms is like debilitating sometimes. And so you're probably
Yeah.
just like, of course I don't feel like a person, you know?
Yeah. And it was even harder this time around too, because it was like I had a taste of who I wanted to be. And I couldn't forget her. But I also like it felt impossible to be her here. Like not there, if that makes sense.
Yeah. How old were you at this point?
27.
27, which is like, I mean, I'm 26. I feel like now I'm like, yeah, I feel like this time I've never felt more like myself. So, like, for
That's
you to
awesome.
have a taste of that and then all of a sudden go back, I could imagine that I would get completely depressed
Yeah.
if that happened to me because I'd be like, I'm 27. Like, what the fuck is going on?
Oh man, yeah. It's it's such a weird thing to look back on. It because it was such a life-changing experience, and I just wished it last longer, but also it was just like I had to learn how to be that person anywhere. Like I had to learn how to be her here.
So how did you do that? Like, how did you take that person and you were like, this is who like, how did you reconnect to that person?
It took a long time, for sure. Um, as I had two more kids after, like during slash after that time, and so I mean, and every time you have a baby, the clock kind of resets, you know. The
Yeah, was that hard? Like going through that depressed time and then having two more kids and being like, this is fine.
Yeah, like it sounds morbid, but the 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 only thing that kind of kept me through that was being pregnant. Like the only reason I wanted to eat was because I was like, I have to feed my baby. Or the only reason I woke up is like and went through my day was because I have two little kids depending on me. I have to, kind of thing, or three,
Which is
whatever.
not more, I mean, we all need a why, okay? We all need our
Yeah,
reason.
yeah, exactly.
Especially when you're going through that. No matter what time it is, no matter what time in your life, like you always need something to, like if you're in that place, like you always have something, hopefully, that's like, keeping you going. So,
Yeah, and it was definitely my kids
yeah.
at that point. Um, but yeah, as my kids got older, naturally, like I had more opportunities to be alone. Um, and so I started like going to Sephora by myself. And it was like, whoa, this is crazy. I haven't done this in like a decade. And I know that sounds weird because it's like most people, most adults just do things alone all the time, every day. Like my husband goes off to work and he's alone all the time. But that was literally something I just hadn't experienced for a decade of my life, was being alone. And so I would start going out and doing things by myself. And I realized, oh my gosh, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I like. I don't know what I want to wear. I don't know where I want to go or how to spend my time or my money. Like, those are all things I should know about myself. And I just didn't. And so I was like, this has to change. And so I would say 2023, last year, was the first time that I made like a very like concerted effort to know myself. And so my husband and I, we sat down and we just planned out times where I would go off by myself and be alone. And so, because like he would go on business trips all the time, and I would like, he'd be gone for a weekend or a week, and it's like, I would watch the kids, no question, right? And he's like, why can't you do that? I'm like, I don't know. Can I? Like, I don't know.
I'm allowed to do that.
Like, what would I do? And so he kind of like coined the term, and he was like, let's call them your music retreats. And so we would plan out, we ended up doing 6 of them last year. So like every other month where I would go away for like 3 days. And sometimes I would go travel, but most of the time it was just here in Calgary, like 20 minutes from my house. And I would just go and I would stay in a hotel, and I would take my guitar with me, and I would just sit in silence for like days and just write music. And I walked away like after last year with a pile of songs that I haven't done that. And I can't even remember the last time I was able to write that much. And so actually accomplishing things and saying and doing things rather than just like saying someday I'll do that, actually doing them, that gave me so much confidence. Like, I feel like confidence is a byproduct of being authentic and showing up for yourself and doing the things that you say you're going to do. And I was finally doing that. And so I could like trust myself again. And I was actually creatively just like flowing. And that kind of really changed my life. It brought me out of it. And so, and it bled into other areas of my life too, not just music, right? Like I started dressing the way I wanted to dress, and I started to actually make decisions for my life, like big, important decisions that I had been avoiding for years. And that was just because I could finally reconnect with myself again after all of that time. And it was really cool.
That's actually so, like, after hearing that, just about you going to a hotel and just like taking those days off and just like being away and being alone, I think people don't prioritize being alone enough. And that's like the smartest fucking idea I've ever heard in my life. Like, I want to do that. I want to
You
like get out of
should
my
do that.
apartment and go into like a fucking hotel. I don't even have kids.
You
Like,
don't need kids. You should.
yeah.
Everybody should be like connecting with themselves.
I agree. Like, honestly, and I think it's like just you spending like 2, 3 days by yourself. Like, was it hard to start writing again? Like, did you find that the first or second time you were like, this is, I don't know if I can, or were you just like, this is great? Like,
Honestly, it was great. the weird part for me was like sleeping alone in or like just sitting in the silence. I was like, this feels so weird. Like I don't know how to handle this. It's so quiet. I don't like, but the writing part came pretty easy because I think he was just like pent up for years, and it was just like, okay, just go. But
like
yeah,
the fastest writing ever.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. It was just very much needed, and so yeah, that part came pretty quickly and easily, which was really cool.
yeah, it is really cool. That's so nice. And just so, yeah, I feel like I want to do that. Like, I'm gonna book a hotel like after this and be like,
Do it.
bye, I'm leaving for 3 days.
Do it.
Even just 20 minutes away. Like, so just having, you know, 4 kids starting from age, was it 21? 20,
Yeah, I mean
21, 22
22.
ish. So, like, I mean, we've talked a lot about like you losing yourself and like, I mean, I feel like I have a different perspective on just like moms in general. Like, I feel like I never even thought that people would ask like how are your kids rather than like how are you? Like I feel like it's like if people were asking me that, I would feel like what is happening? Like why are you guys all of a sudden not caring about me? Like yes, I care about my kids, but also like I'm still a person.
Yeah.
But from having your 4 kids, what do you feel like you've learned that you don't think you would have learned like if you didn't have them?
I love that question. Um, I think I mean, I don't feel like you have to be a mom to learn these things particularly, but I spent my whole 20s taking care of tiny humans 24/7. So I was kind of forced into these things, into learning patience and hard work and diligence and just like empathy. Those were all things that I feel like I didn't really totally have before. And motherhood kind of gave me the opportunity to learn those things really fast. Cause, and like, just like learning to do things scared and, and do things like when you're uncomfortable because, um, that was something that I avoided before. And it was really just when you have these kids who depend on you for survival. I mean, that sounds dramatic, but I mean, it's true. It's like they depend on you for everything. And so you can't really just like, oh, no, I'm not going to do that. It's like if you're their protector, you're their advocate in all these situations, and that leads to like very uncomfortable, scary situations sometimes. And so you just gotta push through. And so I would say that that's definitely changed the way I am a lot.
Do you have any situations in mind?
Well, just like, I mean, it can be literally physical of just like my kid isn't breathing. I don't know what is happening. Where do I take him? Do I take him to emergency? Do I call the ambulance? Like things like that, where you just have to think quick. Or just like I have one kid who had trouble with speech, and just advocating to find help for him was so difficult. And I had to just have so many tough conversations, and I had to be really pushy with like doctors and other people and teachers and everything. And it was like really out of my comfort zone, right? But it was like, it's for him, it's for my kids, so I'm going to do it anyway. I guess that would be an example.
100%, yeah. Because I was thinking, like, okay, like when I'm like, I mean, 21 to 23, I mean, even now, there's lots of times when I'm like, I feel like I do things for my business now. Like, I'm very much like, if it's going to benefit my business to have a hard conversation, like, I'm going to fucking do it
Yeah.
because my business is my baby. But, like, when I'm thinking about it, I'm like, if I didn't have the business, like, I probably wouldn't put myself, like, I feel like I've grown so much just from that that I'm like, I can kind of relate in that sense of like, you will do anything and you'll have the hard conversations and like you'll go through like whatever you kind of have to do in order to get,
Yeah, I love
whatever
that.
you're kind of trying to get. Um, so I see that because it's like, and especially when you're that young, you're kind of thinking like, well, I mean, first of all, I'm just shit at patience in general. Like I'm awful. I'm slowly learning. Um, but you are pushed into that and you're like, I now have to be patient because like this little human doesn't really know much,
Mm-mm.
you know? Like
Yeah.
you have to patiently teach them shit, which is like you gotta be patient. You can't just get mad at them.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
I mean, you try very hard.
yeah.
Yeah,
Keep it
no,
together.
keep it together. But yeah, I would say that's definitely like something those are things that have benefited my life a lot. And that all of those came from experiences through motherhood for sure.
I love that. And so, do you have any advice for any women that are like going through, maybe they just had their first baby, maybe they just had two, maybe they had 4 babies already, and they're like, I still fucking lost myself. Like, I am struggling to find myself. What advice would you give them?
Yeah. I think it's important to like realize, okay, there's going to be different phases in motherhood. There's going to be different, just like in anything, right? There's going to be phases, like take that example of having a new baby. It's like logistically, you're going to have less time than you used to, or than you will in the future. And so it's like just knowing like that's like those phases, they ebb and flow, like it's going to pass, it's going to change. But that being said, it's you shouldn't have to do what I did. You shouldn't have to completely lose yourself, lose any sort of self-worth in that during those phases. Um, and I think really like the key to not losing yourself and to like keeping that self-worth is time to yourself, time alone to get to know yourself. I think that's so important. And so I would say like my advice would be to be so deliberate and take action when you're like, it takes effort to deliberately plan. Like you can wait for that time to come. And I waited for years. I said, someday I'll play my guitar again. Someday I'll do this. Someday I'll do that. And that time just never came until I actually forced myself to make that time. And so I would say to be deliberate and put in that effort. And like along with that, to teach yourself that you're worth that effort. Cause it's like, I don't know, mom guilt is such a mind fuck. It's so crazy. And you're always feeling guilty about everything and everything you do. And so to just say, okay, I am worthy of this and this isn't selfish. Me taking this time is all it's going to do is make me a better mom. It's going to make me a better person and it's going to benefit their lives. And that was so hard for me to get to. And so I hope I could just like, if I was to give any advice, it would be to just like take deliberate action and make effort to find that time for yourself and know that you're worthy of that time. You deserve it, I would say.
I love that. Mom guilt. Wait, can we talk about that for a second?
Of course.
Because holy shit, I never even thought about that. What, like, are you guilty of literally everything? The time you spend away from them? Like, what can,
Honestly,
please
yeah,
tell me.
it's mom guilt is anything you say, you're overthinking. Anything you do, you're overthinking. Like, it's just, am I spending too much time doing this? Am I not giving, like I will spend the whole day with my kids. I will give them so much time. I'll give them everything. I will take care of them all day long. And then it'll be like bedtime and they'll be asking me for things and I'll say no. Like it's bedtime. We're done. Like no, and they ask and they ask and they ask. And I would feel so guilty that I would just say yes to everything. And I would just keep being like, okay, 5 more minutes. Okay, another story. Okay, I'll cuddle you. And then it's like 10 p.m. at night. And when I wasn't doing that, when I was saying no, like I would leave the room and I would feel like so bad. And like, I'm the worst mom ever. Like, I can't believe like I'm just going to go and take time alone instead of cuddle them to sleep. And my husband's like, that's insane. Like, that's so crazy. Like, you spent the whole day with them. You gave them everything. You're allowed to set boundaries. You're allowed to have time to yourself. And I just like never felt that. I just felt guilty anytime I ever tried to, I don't know, say no or just like, yeah. And it goes on and on with every part. It's just, it's always there.
Just an ongoing thing.
Yeah. And you're always just like talking yourself out of it. And like, cause like, it's not logical, but we all have it. Like the more moms I talk to, the more I realize like this isn't uncommon. This is a very real thing.
Well, you also have a lot of like outside pressure too, because not only are like you parenting your kids, it's like a lot of people also have like they're probably mom and dad saying like, oh, well, we parented you this way and you should do this and you shouldn't do this. And then you also have like all the parenting books that are like, you should do this and you shouldn't do this. And then probably like there's like classes for like like new moms or whatever that they're probably saying different things. And you're like, now I don't know what the fuck to do. I'm guilty about everything that I'm doing, even if I feel like I'm doing the right
Yep.
thing and what I want to do. I watched this mom on TikTok actually, and she does a lot of she calls it like gentle parenting, and so she guides them into what like it's really interesting actually like what she does. She's also got them in the kitchen when they're really young and like using knives and like that kind of, and the amount of hate that she gets for that, but like, yo, I didn't even know how to fucking cook anything when I was little. And these kids
Me
know how to
neither.
cook so much. She'll give them like an egg and she'll be like, okay, make something. And they will make like a whole omelet that you're like 2 years old. Like, I don't
That's
even know.
impressive.
It is so, I'll have to send you her
Yeah.
TikTok. It's so impressive. It's so cool. And I'm like, but the amount of hate, but then also the amount of love. And I'm just like, this would be so confusing, I feel like, as a mom, you know?
Yeah. You kind of just have to let go of all of it. And that's like way easier said than done. But it just like gets to the point where it's just too much. And you just kind of have to like realize, okay, I'm the best parent for these kids. Like these kids are mine for a reason. And you have to trust your like mom, like intuition, your gut, and like know, okay, um, I'm you love them more than anybody, more than anything in the whole world. So you're gonna do your very best to try and make their life the best that it possibly can be. And everybody else is gonna have opinions about that, and those just don't matter. They really don't. Because at the end of the day, what matters is how your kids feel about you and how you feel about you. And like, I I don't even like, this is so random, but out of the blue the other day, I don't I haven't been very like vocal about these feelings with my kids of like the way that I felt, because I don't feel like that's helpful or beneficial to them. So I've never been like, oh, I gave up my dreams for you, because I don't feel that, but because I've found myself now and I'm doing those things and being myself like authentically living, and so I'm a lot happier and I'm a lot more at peace with life. But my oldest, I think we were just like listening to Taylor Swift or something, and he like comes up to me out of the blue and he's like, Mom, you could have been famous like Taylor Swift, but you chose to be our mom instead. Thank you so much. And I just like,
I would
I
have
was like,
cried.
oh, 100%. I was just like, I mean, you have a lot of faith in me. I don't know if I would have been Taylor Swift, but just the fact that he just like, I didn't say that to him. Like he realized that on his own. And I was just like, okay, like this is everything.
Yeah,
Like that was a really cool moment.
worth it. So worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Aw, I want to cry.
Oh, 100%. I was just like,
Oh my
oh my
God.
gosh. It just like took me by surprise completely.
Aw, and he's 11?
Mm-hmm.
Fuck, that's cute.
He's so sweet.
Aw, that's so cute. Well, do you have anything else that you want to add for the moms out there? Or for yourself? Not even for the moms, just you.
I mean, I feel like a good challenge, like if to anybody who's listening or anything, would be to just like next time you see anybody, a mom, like it doesn't have to be a mom. Next time you're having a conversation with somebody, well, I guess it does have to be a mom for this challenge. Next time you're having a conversation with a mom, whether it's in passing, like a short thing, or you're hanging out with them for hours, don't ask them about their kids. Like have a whole conversation where you just talk about them. You ask about them. And like they might not even know how to do that. It might be kind of weird, but also like it might be a completely different conversation than you've ever had with them, and like you could know them so much better than you ever did, and they would probably really appreciate that. I know I would have. So I think it's really important to empower other moms, and be around other moms that make you feel empowered and like okay to be authentically you. And so be that person for other people.
Amazing. Honestly, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel like I should like be playing it cool, but I'm just like so excited.
No, yes,
I'm not that girl. I'm not going to play it cool. I'm
No.
just like so happy to be here with you.
I'm same. I was looking forward to our podcast forever. Like,
Good. I'm
literally.
so glad.
I'm so happy that we made it work.
Me
Because you went to
too.
Hawaii and we were like trying to sort it out. I'm glad. I'm so happy I got you on.
We did it.
So, yay. Thank you guys for listening. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll have Amanda's stuff all in the description. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.